Hey there, Game of Thrones fans. Today we're diving into a crucial moment for one of Westeros' smartest, wittiest, and perhaps most misunderstood characters, Tyrion Lannister. We're talking about the scene where he's put on trial for poisoning King Joffrey Baratheon. Believe me, this scene didn't just change the course of the show, it also showed us themes of power, justice, and betrayal in a whole new light. You know Tyrion, right? The one they mocked as the imp, the dwarf. He usually outsmarted everyone with his intelligence and sharp tongue. But this time, things got serious. He was facing the biggest test of his life, defending himself in a court filled with hatred and prejudice, even set up by his own family. This scene, every word, every glance, carries deep meaning. It's one of Game of Thrones' most dramatic peaks, keeping us glued to our screens. So let's pull back the curtains on Westeros' most eventful trial and take a closer look at Tyrion's one-man fight for justice. Joffrey Baratheon's wedding. What a wedding that was! Instead of being a joyous celebration long awaited across the Seven Kingdoms, it turned into an absolute nightmare. The cruel and unstable young king, hated by millions, died suddenly from poisoning during the wedding feast. Joffrey's final moments were a horrifying spectacle, his face turning purple, racked by terrifying coughing fits. Right after this terrible tragedy, all eyes immediately turned to one person, Tyrion Lannister. His constant bickering with Joffrey during the wedding, the insults he hurled at him, and most importantly, that wine goblet in his hand. All these details at first glance made Tyrion the prime suspect, but we viewers knew he was innocent. Even though we didn't know the real plot behind the murder at that moment, we could feel deep down how this death would shatter Tyrion's life and drag him into darkness. So who was behind the accusation? Of course, Joffrey's mother, Queen Cersei Lannister. Cersei, blinded by the pain of her son's death, was burning with a desire for revenge. Her deep hatred for Tyrion was an added bonus. She had found the perfect opportunity to pin Joffrey's death on him. All those years of contempt, mockery, and cruel treatment, in Cersei's eyes, they made Tyrion the only person capable of such an act. And just like that, the Great Hall of King's Landing turned into a scene more reminiscent of a gallows than a court of justice. Tyrion's trial? Was it even a trial? Oh, it was a complete comedy from start to finish, but a tragic one. This wasn't about seeking justice at all. It was clearly about imposing a predetermined verdict, a blatant show of power. And what a panel of judges it was. Lord Tywin Lannister, Prince Oberyn Martell, and Lord Mace Tyrell. They were all pursuing their own agendas. Tywin, Tyrion's father, was already fed up and looking for an opportunity to get rid of him. Oberyn, he had actually come to Westeros for revenge, but he was under Tywin's influence and initially distanced himself from Tyrion. As for Mace Tyrell, he was merely a puppet in Tywin's hands, more concerned with his stomach than his wits. The prosecutors, especially at Cersei's insistence, began presenting their evidence as if they were performing a play. The evidence? Weak, convoluted, and most importantly, fabricated. The goal wasn't to prove Tyrion's guilt, it was to paint him as a monster in the public eye and intensify existing prejudices. Even though Tyrion screamed his innocence, no one in that courtroom was willing to listen. Everyone was acting according to their own agenda. Tywin wanted to clear his family name and get rid of Tyrion. Cersei sought revenge to soothe her pain and hatred. Under the guise of protecting the royal family's honor and maintaining order, Tyrion's life was going to be disregarded right before their eyes. This scene brutally revealed how justice in Westeros was twisted and manipulated. The witnesses heard during the trial? They were the greatest proof of how justice had turned into an illusion. Every testimony was orchestrated to work against Tyrion, full of lies and distortions. The initial witnesses immediately signaled how unfair the court was. Sir Meryn Trant took the stand, claiming Tyrion had threatened Joffrey multiple times and even slapped him once. These events were true, yes, but they were taken out of context to slander Tyrion's character and push him closer to the image of a kingslayer. Meryn Trant's lies showed that the court was already rapidly heading towards a predetermined outcome. Then came the testimony of Grand Maester Pycelle. Old and trembling, Pycelle claimed Tyrion had stolen poison from him. This poison, known as the Strangler, caused its victim to die peacefully in their sleep. Pycelle's statement, despite Joffrey's violent death, was an attempt to prove that Tyrion had access to poison. Of course, this claim was entirely made up, and Pycelle was speaking on Tywin's orders. These false testimonies showed how the noose was cruelly tightening around Tyrion. But the real blow came from his closest, most trusted person, Shae. Shae's testimony, Tyrion's mistress and confidant, was the most devastating moment of the trial. Shae had repeatedly expressed her love for Tyrion and proved her loyalty before. Her appearance was a complete shock for both Tyrion and us viewers. Shae's words ripped through Tyrion's heart. Her eyes burned with pain, disgust, and raw anger. Shae claimed that Tyrion had used her as a whore, humiliated her, and even told her about his plans to kill Joffrey. Moreover, she stated that Tyrion had often threatened to kill Joffrey, and even boasted about it after committing the murder. Shae's testimony wasn't just a lie, it was also a cruel attack on Tyrion at his most emotionally vulnerable point. Tyrion, who believed in her loyalty, was utterly devastated by this betrayal. The scene was marked by the blank stare in Shay's eyes and Tyrion's helplessness. This moment shattered Tyrion's last fragments of faith. It really hurt him. After Shay's shocking testimony, Tyrion's patience snapped completely. He couldn't take the court's injustice, the fabricated evidence, and his closest friend's betrayal anymore. At that moment, the entire courtroom fell silent. Tyrion's voice, raw with emotion, cut through the crowd's murmur as he turned to his father Tywin, yelling, "Father, I wish to confess. I wish to confess." The hall instantly fell silent. Tywin stared at his son, who in turn looked up at the three judges. Tywin asked him, "You wish to confess?" Tyrion looked out at the crowd, who were taking such pleasure in his destruction, and angrily cried out, "I saved you! I saved this city and all your worthless lives. I should have let Stannis kill you all." Tywin, cutting in sharply again, asked, "Tyrion, do you wish to confess?" Tyrion turned to Tywin and with a mix of regret and sarcasm said, "Yes, father, I'm guilty. Guilty. Is that what you want to hear?" Tywin asked him if he admitted to poisoning the king. Tyrion replied proudly, "No, of that I'm innocent. I am guilty of a far more monstrous crime. I am guilty of being a dwarf." Tywin, with a troubled expression, said, "You are not on trial for being a dwarf." But Tyrion mockingly retorted, "Oh yes, I am. I've been on trial for that my entire life." In response to Tywin's question, "Have you nothing to say in your defense?" Tyrion took a deep breath and with determination said, "Nothing but this. I did not do it." Then he turned his back on his father and looked at Cersei. The transition from pain to rage, from resentment to defiance in his eyes deeply affected the audience. Tyrion, with hatred, cried out to Cersei, "I did not kill Joffrey, but I wish that I had. Watching your vicious bastard die gave me more relief than 1,000 lying whores." Cersei had never hated Tyrion more than in that moment. Tyrion turned away from her and looked out at the crowd of nobles. With all his fury, he yelled, "I wish I was the monster you think I am. I wish I had enough poison for the whole pack of you. I would gladly give my life to watch you all swallow it." A roar rose from the crowd. Shouts began. "Killer! Kingslayer! Monster!" Tywin, trying to shout over the crowd's uproar, yelled to Sir Meryn Trant, "Sir Meryn, escort the prisoner back to his cell." But Tyrion, in a final outburst and with all his strength, thundered, "I will not give my life for Joffrey's murder, and I know I'll get no justice here, so I will let the gods decide my fate. I demand a trial by combat." The roar of the crowd was deafening. Jaime shut his eyes. Any hope of saving Tyrion was gone. Cersei smiled, triumphant at having pushed him too far. Oberyn Martell leaned forward, intrigued. As for Tywin, he stared straight ahead in dark hatred at his youngest son. And Tyrion Lannister, defiant, stared right back. The man truly became a giant in that scene. Tyrion's trial scene, especially that unforgettable speech, completely changed the show's direction, like a domino effect. Whatever happened, happened. First off, his demand for a trial by combat brought about an unexpected development. Prince Oberyn Martell became Tyrion's champion. Oberyn had actually come to King's Landing for revenge and held a deep hatred for the Lannisters. This offer gave him the chance to fight Gregor the Mountain Clegane and avenge his sister Elia Martell. That epic duel between Oberyn and the Mountain was one of the show's bloodiest and most shocking moments, and it changed Tyrion's fate once again. Unfortunately, Oberyn's tragic defeat sealed Tyrion's execution sentence. Oh man, our hearts couldn't take that scene. But that also led to another turning point in the show. At the last moment before the execution, Jaime Lannister helped his brother Tyrion escape from the dungeon. This escape led Tyrion to his father Tywin's chambers, where a confrontation that brought him back to life took place. Tyrion killed his father Tywin with a crossbow while he was in the privy. This was the culmination of years of oppression and humiliation, a moment both shocking and satisfying. Tywin's death shook the power of the Lannister dynasty, driving Tyrion to flee Westeros and cross paths with Daenerys Targaryen. A new adventure had just begun. This trial scene also played a very important role in Tyrion's character development. Until then, he had always been seen as a Lannister, a part of his family. But this trial, especially Shay's betrayal, caused him to completely break away from his Lannister identity. He would now move towards a new path, not where he belonged, but where he could find justice and revenge. This chain of events would make him one of Daenerys' most important advisors, and allow him to play a decisive role in the future of Westeros. He literally rose from the ashes. Tyrion's trial scene brilliantly explored Game of Thrones' most fundamental themes. Concept of justice. The scene was a powerful allegory showing how justice worked in Westeros, or rather, how it didn't. Justice? It had turned into a tool serving the interests of the powerful. Innocence or guilt didn't matter. What mattered were the power balances and dynastic interests. The court was less a place for seeking truth and more a stage where vengeful desires and prejudices were satisfied. We saw the dark and ruthless face of Westeros once again. Betrayal and loyalty. Shay's testimony exposed the cruelest and most personal side of betrayal. Tyrion had placed all his trust in Shae, protecting her. This betrayal shattered his last fragments of faith in life and people. Shae's actions not only endangered Tyrion's life, but also left a deep and lasting scar on his soul. This was one of the most poignant examples of the breach of trust theme frequently explored in the show. Power dynamics. Tywin Lannister's control over the court was a perfect example of how power can manipulate justice. Tywin had literally turned the court into a puppet show. Every move, every testimony served his ultimate goal. This scene showed that in Westeros, there wasn't much that couldn't be bought with gold, and how power cast a shadow over truth. Tyrion's intelligence and arguments were helpless against the brute force and authoritarian structure of power. Family bonds and hatred. The complex and often toxic relationships within the Lannister family reached their peak in this scene. Cersei's hatred for Tyrion had flared up even more with Joffrey's death. Tywin's disappointment and disgust for Tyrion made him willing to sacrifice him. Jaime's loyalty to Tyrion, however, represented the only truly positive relationship within the Lannister family, and this scene would finally prompt Jaime to act. This family, though appearing strong from the outside, clearly showed how it was rotting from within through this trial scene. Wow. Tyrion's trial scene didn't just stand out for its story, but also for its cinematography. It was truly top tier. The direction creates a tense and claustrophobic atmosphere for the scene. Wide shots emphasize how small and helpless Tyrion is in the courtroom, while close-ups capture the emotional storm on the characters' faces. Especially the changes in Tyrion's expression. Shock, pain, betrayal, anger, and finally that defiant look deeply affect us. Peter Dinklage's performance? That's what really makes this scene unforgettable. Dinklage portrays Tyrion's complex emotional world so masterfully that you feel his pain, anger, and disappointment deep in your bones. That devastated look on his face during Shae's testimony, followed by that explosive and iconic speech, Dinklage adds weight to every word, releasing the rebellion that has accumulated within Tyrion with every breath. This performance earned him another Emmy Award and went down in history as one of the best character performances in Game of Thrones. His monologue in this scene became one of the most quoted and discussed moments of the show. Dinklage's presence in the scene proves that Tyrion is not just a dwarf, but a hero who can overcome any obstacle with his intelligence and words, his most powerful weapons. He truly became a giant in that scene. The music also plays a super role in enhancing the scene's atmosphere. Tense piano notes and rising orchestration increase the dramatic tension of the scene and reflect Tyrion's internal struggle. The camera's slow focus on Tyrion emphasizes the emotional intensity of the scene and the power of Peter Dinklage's performance. Everything was perfect. Tyrion Lannister's trial scene was absolutely one of the most impactful, heartbreaking, and powerful moments in Game of Thrones, no doubt about it. This scene not only kept the identity of Joffrey's killer mysterious, but also marked a complete turning point in Tyrion's character journey. The web of injustice he fell into despite his innocence, the betrayal from his closest ally, and his explosive reaction to it were truly etched into our minds. This trial was the beginning of Tyrion leaving his past behind and stepping into a brand new future. Even though he lost faith in Westeros, his loyalty to his family, and even his trust in love, this experience made him tougher, smarter, and more determined. This scene became a symbol of a hero's rebirth, his rise from the ashes, and his pursuit of a new purpose. So what do you think about this scene? Did Tyrion's speech deeply affect you too? Did Shae's betrayal shock you? Don't forget to share your comments below, and make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. See you in future videos. Our quest for justice continues in this complex world of Westeros.